Good evening and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep. My name is Savitri Krishnamurthy. I'm a VARC mentor at BYJU'S and I'm delighted to be taking the last lap to CAT 2021, the VARC leg of the session. I'll be sharing the VARC sessions with my colleague Pradeep Sen Gupta. As you know, we have started this course some days back, and take a screenshot of this schedule of classes. We have classes on 2nd, 3rd, and from 6th we have classes every day. Stay locked at 7 p.m. to the BYJU'S Exam Prep channel, app, and also the YouTube channel, whatever is convenient to you, so that we at BYJU'S can help you take that little step or the big step, as it would matter to you, to a 99 plus percentile in CAT. That is the objective of this course. Now, what is the objective of this session? In this session, we will be taking passages from economics, business, science, and technology, and I will tell you how to get your basics right. So we will be brushing up on your basics, and we will also learn some of the tricks to solve RCs accurately and quickly. All right? Okay. Now, whenever you get business, economics, science, and technology passages, there are a few things that you need to remember. Point number one, the passages are generally easy to read because they are descriptive, factual, argumentative, and analytical. They are easy. So what do you have to do? You have to remember the main idea, you have to remember the main points of the passage. That will help you answer questions quickly. Do not start making notes. You can jot a line, a word or two, but do not summarize and write these long notes. Second, the RCs on science and technology, economics, and other things have a lot of questions, a lot of facts and figures, and a lot of direct questions. So when you get direct questions, remember the examiner, the question setter, is relying on your imperfect memory. So you need to go back to the passages and just cross-check the facts and figures before answering the options. Third, technical passages, science, technology, economics, would have some technical terms. Okay, we call it jargon, right? There'd be a lot of technical jargon there. Do not get intimidated by the jargon, because if they ask you a question about the particular expression, the answer will be there in the passage. All you have to do is understand the meaning of the word or the expression in the context of the passage. All right, so good evening to all of you, and let us start. Are you ready to start? Yeah, let's solve a few RCs. Ready, get set, go. Before I say that, for each slide, I will give you 45 seconds, which is more than enough time for you to read the slide and also understand or restate or simplify the main point of that particular paragraph that appears to you in that slide. All right, please do not say, ma'am, please show it for 10 more seconds. I will not show it because that is not the right method. Okay, shall we start? Okay, start. The first passage on business, let's start. Let me start the timer. Read, I will read along with you before I show the next passage. Next slide. Again, once you've summed up the main point, read the next slide. Next slide. Hope you're doing good so far. Next slide. The last one is short. Though the timer is set for 45, I will give you only 20 seconds. All right? All right. Now, you've read the passage. How did you find it? Quickly give me your comments. Easy? Do you want me to summarize the passage line by line, or do you want me to give you an overall summary? Quickly give me your answers before we move on. I felt you've read it enough time. How much time do you take it? How long do you think the passage was? How many words did you read? You read a passage which was about 529 words. Not about, it was exactly 529 words. How long did you read the 529 words? I gave you 3:45 seconds and another 20. 2.5 minutes, maximum 3 minutes. So you've read the passage in 3 minutes. Can we now look at the question? No, I will just give you an overall summary. Check with me to see if your overall summary of the passage, which you should have done now, when you read the passage, first paragraph he talks about this, second paragraph he talks about this. Once you finish reading each slide, say that, okay? And now this passage I took it from the Atlantic, business, 529 words, you guys did it in 3 minutes. Was it that tough? No. Let's see if your summary matches my summary. What did the passage say? It talks about disruptions in the supply chain system in the US during the pandemic, the reasons for it and its effects. You're with me so far? Correct? What did he say? In the first paragraph he says how everyday life in the United States changed because it is heavily dependent on the smooth supply chain operations. What happened? Disruptions caused shortages, they caused rise in prices of products. Then he says that is what happened during the pandemic. Now there is the Delta variant. The Delta variant of the virus and the resultant uncertainty has only increased problems. It has made the situation worse. Then the author gives an example of some person who used to import goods, Dan Hirsch's friend, who talks about how shipping has now become slow and more expensive. He says that, okay, getting things from outside is problematic. Also in the domestic situation in the US is not good. Even if somebody wants to manufacture something locally, they have to depend on stuff, raw material from outside. Right? All of you got that right? Okay, so far so good. Now let's see how many questions we can answer keeping this summary in mind. Do we need to go back to the passage? I will take you back to the passage. Question number 1. Which of the following hypothetical statements would add the least depth to the author's claim about the supply chain problems caused by the pandemic? Keep this rule in mind. Understand the question. Which one adds least depth means which one does not strengthen the passage. Adding depth to an argument means making it stronger. Author is asking, identify the option which will not make it stronger or which will make it weaker. Either it will not strengthen, it could be irrelevant, or it can weaken. We are looking for that option. Okay, now let's just quickly look at the options and then I will start the timer. If you want to look at the passage, some particular part of the passage, I'll show it to you, else I'll just explain the relevant part of the passage. The supply of packaging is insufficient to keep up with the demand, causing delays. Would this add depth to the author's claim that supply chain problems were caused by the pandemic? Lots of problems were caused to the supply chain, yes or no? Second, a container ship was wedged sideways in one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, causing unprecedented delays in shipping. Would this cause problems? Third, despite the threat of another wave looming large, life is limping back to normal. Fourth, a large number of truck drivers and postal workers were affected by the virus. Now quickly key in the answer which you think adds least depth to the author's arguments. Which answer option do you think is right? Please key in your answers. Is it A, that the supply of packaging is insufficient to keep up with demand, causing delays? When the pandemic happened, what did we do? We all ordered things online, and online things had to be packaged. Now, if packaging supplies are not there, then there would be delays. So this would add depth. Would it be B? The container ship is wedged. So one, it cannot delay the merchandise to its destination. Second, it also blocks ships which are behind it. So this will also add depth that pandemic caused supply chain, disrupted the supply chain network. What about C? Life is getting back to normal. Things are going back on track. So clearly C is the answer that many of you got right. Excellent. Easy question. We did not have to go back to the passage to find the answer. Oh, I forgot to put the timer on for you in my excitement. That's okay. All right. Next one. So the answer is C. All of you got that. Fantastic to see so many C's there. Okay. Now let's keep those correct answers going and let's look at question 2. After I read all the options, I will start off the timer. Okay. Maybe I should start off the timer now. Which one of the following best sums up the overall purpose of quoting Dan Hirsch in the passage? Now, do you want to go back to see where he quoted Dan Hirsch in the passage? To affirm that specialists like Dan Hirsch are helping ease supply chain management issues arising due to the pandemic. Do you remember anything being said about this? B, to state that companies Hirsch owns are exceptions to a dominant trend in supply chains. Do you think that is possible? Or is it C, to describe how Hirsch and his peers are facilitating a smooth and uniform distribution of commodities in the market? Or is it D, to emphasize the drastic effect of the pandemic on the supply chain industry? Let me see those answers quickly. Please mention the question number next to the answers. All right? Mention the question numbers. Otherwise, I won't know whether you're marking for question 1 or 2. All right? What do you think is the correct answer? I'm seeing quite a few C's. To describe how Hirsch and his... Okay, let's just quickly go back to that part of the passage where Dan Hirsch appears quickly. Not summary, because summary we didn't mention the points about Dan Hirsch. In summaries, you don't mention examples, you don't mention illustration. Dan Hirsch is not here. Dan Hirsch is somewhere in the next paragraph, right? Or no, it's the first one itself. Yes, here. When I called up Dan Hirsch, who specializes in supply chain management, he said the author of the passage says it's a little wonky. What did Dan Hirsch say? Wonky? No, everything is broken in another way. So why did the author mention Dan Hirsch? To illustrate or substantiate his point on how the supply chain system is not just wonky. Wonky means a bit twisted, but totally broken, right? So the answer to this question would be, some of you got that right. The answer to this question would be D, to emphasize that, look, the system is bad. Because Dan Hirsch says, no, 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 you are being very mild by saying it's wonky, it's actually broken. All right, all those who got D, excellent. Let's look at the third question. Based on the passage, all of the following can be inferred about the supply chain industry except that. That means something has been already given in the passage. Based on that, you have to draw your own conclusions. Can you say it? Let me put on the timer and you answer the question this time. Please give the question number and the answer. Okay, let me see those answers. You don't need all 45 seconds to answer this question. If you felt you needed it, I will take you back to the passage where we will confirm each of these options and see, can I identify this? Can I identify this? Right? Let's see. Question 3. Let me see the answers. Doesn't matter if you guess and get it wrong. Let's go back to the passage. D. Shipping ports in China usually deal in high volumes of merchandise. Has the author mentioned shipping ports in China? Yes, he did. He said because of the pandemic, the shipping ports in China had to be closed down, and he used the word the high volume shipping ports of China had to be closed down. So this can be inferred. High volume shipping ports of China were closed down means that shipping ports in China deal with high volumes of merchandise, so D can be inferred. Agreed? C. Severe price hikes are not the norm. From where can we get this? Severe price hikes are not the norm. He said, but this shouldn't happen, right? In the passage, let me take you back to the passage. Oh, the timer, I wanted the timer because I wanted to time you, but it makes things a little slower. Let me take you back to the passage where he says this shouldn't happen. What shouldn't happen? It shouldn't, shipping overseas products, shipping things should not be costing so much. So he says such severe price hikes aren't supposed to happen. Why aren't they supposed to happen? Why aren't they supposed to happen? Because he talks about the whole reason of this offshoring thing happened because of the ease with which it was shipped, and shipping was also economical, right? So therefore, from there we can infer option C that, you know, it is not the norm that the shipping prices would be so high. So, no, the next question. Yeah, so this can be inferred. This can be inferred. Different industries vie for the same limited logistics. Yes, he has mentioned it. Where did he mention it? He says because different industries vie for the same logistics, things take time. But why can't A be inferred? He has mentioned American response to the pandemic. Why can't A be inferred? Anybody? What has he said about the American response to the pandemic? He said the American response to the pandemic has treated the Americans as something different from the rest of the world. That means the Americans have not responded differently. The system has regarded Americans as being different from the rest of the world, and the author says, but you know what? The pandemic proved that we are not different from the rest of the world. Therefore, we can not infer this because it says American response to the pandemic is different. Now, what has this option done? It is the clearest trick in the trade. The question setters of CAT play with words. They know that, you know, in the passage you read about American response to the pandemic. But what he actually said was that the American system, we treated the Americans as being something different, which does not mean our response was different. Okay, therefore the answer is A cannot be inferred. How many of you were comfortable and how many of you got this right? Vicky had got it right. How many others felt? Now, even if you didn't, remember the American, these were easier to infer. The moment these were easier to infer, you will say, I have a doubt with A, so let me quickly go back and check the passage and see what did the passage say about the American response to the pandemic, and then you will know that the question setter is just playing with the words. Understood? All right. Which one of the following measures is most likely to be supported by the author of the passage? Remember, this is an inference question because nowhere has the author said you should do this, you should do that, at least not in the passage. Based on the views expressed in the passage, we will try to infer what course of action would the author, is the author likely to support. What did the author say? Pandemic has increased uncertainty and fear. Pandemic caused problems. The new Delta variant has increased uncertainty and fear in the US. In other countries which are fighting the high risk of infection, they are fighting against the infection. So they are trying all methods to see that the infection doesn't spread. And what are the points he mentioned? China has closed down its high volume trading ports. Malaysia and Vietnam he has mentioned, saying that they also have cut down their manufacturing and cut down their manpower at ports. The US is trying something domestically, but it is in no shape because it has to import things. So these are all the things these are all the problems, and this is how people are fighting with problems. So what would solve all these problems? Is it if companies of US expand their capacity to manufacture? Would that answer the problems caused by the pandemic? Vaccination and protection for everyone, not just for the developed nations, will that help? US staffing agencies recruiting more workers from abroad, will the author support that measure? Or is it D? Consumer companies must work harder to make shopping fun and easy for everyone. Quickly tell me your answers. I am seeing all answers, some B's, some A's. Okay, all right, there are some A's and B's, right? These are the main answers. So the fight seems to be between A and B. Now, what is the problem with US companies manufacturing? What did the author say? It will not work because to manufacture also the US relies on its raw material outside. And how is it going to help the other countries which supply? What about China? What about Vietnam? What about Malaysia? Right? The author has also talked about the pandemic affecting them. So what about them? So A cannot be the answer. At most it would be a short-term solution, but the US is also the last part of the passage. The author says domestically also US is having a problem. Even if companies want to increase their production, they have to rely on to get the raw material, they have to rely on others. So it's not A, but since we are talking of the pandemic as the root cause of all problems, new variants of the pandemic, the Delta variant, the author would obviously say protection, vaccination, get rid of the pandemic, find ways to fight the pandemic, nothing else. Therefore, B is the most likely option. Got it? Okay, good. Easy so far. You've got so many questions right. Okay, next question, last question of the set. Which one of the following best explains the meaning of the game of supply chain whack-a-mole? In what context did the author mention it? I will go back. But think. He mentioned it somewhere at the beginning. He says that this new variant has only made the game of supply chain whack-a-mole more complex. Reading the tone of the passage and what the author has said about it, do you think the author is positive about the way the supply chain management companies have managed the pandemic? Do you think the author is appreciating it, author is neutral, or author is negative? If he uses the word the game of supply chain management, What is your opinion of the tone of the author? Is he supportive of what the supply chain management companies have done? Their response to the pandemic, is he happy with it? Is he unhappy with it? What do you think? Quickly tell me, let me see your answers. Yes, what is the tone? Positive, P, negative, N, neutral. Well, positive, P, negative, N. We'll leave out neutral from it. Quickly. He's calling it a game. Do you call it a game? Obviously, he's negative. Then you look for an option which is negative. Is he talking about a situation in which a permanent solution is sought to solve an unexpected problem? Yes, the pandemic was an unexpected problem. Exactly. The pandemic is an unexpected problem, but have they given a permanent solution? If they had, then the Delta variant wouldn't have caused problems. So this is not the answer. A situation in which money and effort are wasted in finding a solution to a temporary problem. Did he say anything about how much money and how much effort was spent? So those seem to be out of scope. We're not sure. It puts a doubt in your mind. I'm not sure. Author hasn't mentioned it. Money and time wasted, so it cannot be this. So is it C or D? D is positive. Effective solution. No, they have not. Then they won't face the problems. Therefore, the answer obviously has to be C. That it's a situation which attempts to solve a problem, but that solution that it is given is temporary. Just like, you patch up the potholes on Bangalore roads. It's something similar. One rain and you see the pothole back again. All right. Now, even otherwise, the term whack-a-mole means a superficial solution. If you didn't know it's an American idiomatic expression. You and I are not very familiar with American idiomatic expressions. We are a bit more familiar with the British idiomatic expressions. It doesn't matter. In the context of the passage, once we got the tone right, it was easy to answer the question. Many of you got it right. All right? So the answer is C. Now, how many of you got at least 4 out of 5 questions right after reading the passage for 3 minutes? 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, with me blabbering in the middle. Then, if you get a passage like this in CAT, won't you be doing bhangra and then sit down and work out the passage? Easy passage. Next passage would be a little more difficult. No, I'm not mean. I just want to raise the bar so that you are used to the next type of passage. Don't have to worry. Follow the same method and work out the next passage. All right? We'll follow the same method. I will show you each passage, each slide of the passage for 45 seconds. Okay? You read it, try to remember and process only the main points. What is the main point? Dr. Manmohan Singh, who was Prime Minister of India for 2 terms, Rajya Sabha member for many things, a prominent economist, an expert on various subjects, the man who brought liberalization, who made India liberal. Yes, I know, he was all that. But what are you trying to say about Dr. Manmohan Singh? Well, he is ailing in the hospital. He has been in and out of the hospital many times last few months. That's the main point. So all this who was is not important. 500-word passage that you read in 2.5 minutes. Why could you answer 4 out of 5 passages? Because hopefully in summarizing the main points, you read and processed only a fifth of that 500-word passage. We summarize and get only the main points. So reading read everything. But processing only 100 out of 500 words will help you answer almost all the questions. And that is the norm in CAT. So if you are a smart test taker, you will learn to identify those main points as you will learn to do now. Let me start the timer and start reading. Okay? All right. Again, do you want me to take you through the passage, paragraph by paragraph, or do you want me to summarize it overall quickly? Take you through paragraph by paragraph. I won't go back to the passage when solving the questions. Quickly tell me. Summarize overall? Yeah. The passage was based on a genre that all of you are slightly worried about, economy. Number of words, same, 524. Time given, same. 45 seconds for 3 slides and 15 seconds for the 4th slide. So you read it under 3 minutes. Do you want to test yourself in this under 3 minutes while we summarize it? Do you want to check your summary with mine? Yes? Okay. A debt crisis is developing in developing countries. This is what the passage is about. Then he says this crisis developed in 3 phases. First phase, the developing countries happily borrowed from all sources. Why? Because their economies were doing well, there was demand for their products, so they thought that okay, when we borrow money, we can repay these debts easily. Okay, so the export revenues will help us repay these debts. Then what happened in phase 2? 2 things happened. One is consumer prices crashed. Second, the pandemic happened. Now that was a double blow, because of which these countries suddenly are in debt and they have no way, the economies are already in facing a problem, so they are not in a position to repay the debt. There's a crisis. The third phase, he says, will begin when the United States decides to increase its interest rates. So one, we are already having a problem, we are in debt, we are paying interest, US is going to increase the interest rate. So all 3 phases, the third phase is yet to happen, the author says when he wrote this passage, and he says this is the problem. Then he ends on a note of caution. Something has to be done before things get out of hand. So one should resolve the crisis before it is too late. A little before that, he talks about steps that have been taken for restructuring the debt, cancelling the debt, but he says they have met with little or no success. Right? So did you have those main points in your summary as well? I hope you did, because that is important. It's a topic that you're not very familiar with. You may face problems when you answer the questions. Let's look at the question. Generally, when the passage talks of big words like debt restructuring, debt cancelling and all, the questions are direct, as is the first question. By the expression comprehensive approach, the author refers to an approach in which whenever you get a phrase from a passage, do not rely on your imperfect memory. Go back to the passage where the phrase has been used and answer the question accordingly. Let's go back to the passage where the phrase has been used. I will just show you this. After that, the rest we don't have to. Okay. Comprehensive approach is here. Remember the words of the comprehensive approach. The comprehensive approach is here. The president of the World Bank said we need a comprehensive approach. What does it include? Debt reduction, swifter restructuring, more transparency. With these 3 actions, debt reduction, restructuring and transparencies, countries can assess and manage their debt risks and work towards having a sustainable debt. Okay, now let us now look at the question. Very easy. When you go back to the passage and you look at the question, life becomes so much easier. Do it fast, and because you're in the exam, you will not have the passage broken up into different slides, so life will be faster. Okay, is it now? Let me start off the timer. Please give me the answer to question 6. I've given you the answer in my own words. Now match it with the question setter's words and tell me which is the answer. Mahima has already given the answer. Okay. Question 6. Within 45 seconds, I should actually give you 30 seconds, but I kept it 45 for both the slides and the questions, so that everyone, takes a shot and tries answering the questions. Don't be shy to get it wrong. Test yourself. Is it A, countries reduce their debts by assessing them? Is it B, work towards sustainable debt levels by writing off current debts? Quickly, let me see your answers. Time up. C, most answers say C. Now, why not A? Can I reduce my debt by just assessing them? Assessing has to be done so that will help countries to manage their debts. Which countries again? Right? Second, can you write off all current debts on your own? Again, which country? Suppose I have taken loans and I write off all my loans. I'm not going to pay you back. Again, the expression and the way the answer has been phrased makes this ambiguous and anyway wrong. So the author talked about assessment, structuring, restructuring and transparency, which will help the countries which have the debt to assess their debts and find out how to repay. Therefore, the answer is C. Excellent. Difficult question, you answered it right. Difficult in the sense that it's a direct question, but it requires a little patience. All right. Overall theme, if you have understood, this question is easy. Writing off countries. Suppose you owe me money, I write off your debt. That means I tell you don't have to pay back. So that is actually writing off here means debt cancellation from the side of the creditor. All right. Question 7. What has resulted in the threat of a debt crisis? The author talks about what resulted in a debt crisis. Do you remember what all he said? And which option would go with that, with what he has said? No assistance being offered to poor countries. Did that lead to the debt crisis? Stopgap solutions instead of permanent solutions being offered. Did that lead to the debt crisis? Private sector not agreeing to debt cancellation. Did that lead to the debt crisis? Or adverse conditions including the pandemic pushing poorer countries to record high levels of debt? Think of the first paragraph and second and third what the author said. But if you remember the very first paragraph and his main argument, you can get question 7 easily. Give me the question number also, okay? Question 7. The fight seems to be between C and D. Now, C is a very common answer, but it is the wrong answer. Why? The crisis is already there. The countries have already taken the debt and we are trying to help them out. And one of the ways is to see if it can be restructured. But they said, no restructuring. The new framework says, let's cancel the debt. And when they applied, the private sector said, no, I am not in favor of. The private sector not agreeing to the debt cancellation is not the cause. What are the main factors which have resulted in this debt crisis? The fact that countries borrowed. They borrowed a lot of money and then on the assumption that they're going to repay it, but the pandemic struck. Therefore, this only worsens the crisis. This makes the crisis bad because there was no solution finding. But the crisis happened because these countries borrowed a lot and then situations turned bad. Therefore, the answer is D. Got it? Many of you got D. B, stopgap solutions are not helping us solve the crisis, but they have not caused the crisis. You get the difference? Those of you who marked B, why it is not B? People are trying, okay, they tried debt restructuring, that didn't work out. They're trying cancellation, not everybody is agreeing. But that is not the cause. What are the factors that have resulted in it? Means what are the factors which caused it? So that the result was the debt crisis. The fact that countries borrowed a lot from various sources and are unable to pay back because of the pandemic and the consumer price crash. Clear? Okay, next question. Key argument made by the author. Don't have to go back to the passage, right? You think of what did the author say. Developing countries are in a worsening debt crisis. Why this crisis didn't happen overnight? It happened over 3 phases. First phase, borrowing the money. Second phase, consumer price crash and pandemic. The economy was doing well, suddenly consumer price crash and the pandemic, can't repay the loans. Third, the US is going to increase interest rates. Big problem. So what is the key argument therefore? Is it A? Oh, Okay, let me set the timer on. Is it A, deepening debt in the developing world could lead to an economic crisis? Is it B, the pandemic has pushed the developing nations into a debt crisis? Is it C, debt restructuring is impossible in the absence of a sovereign debt restructuring mechanism? Or is it D, the non-cooperation of the private sector in the debt service suspension and debt cancellation has pushed the developing countries into a debt crisis? Question 8, give me your answers quickly. Key in your answers quickly. Question 8, I'm not seeing any answers yet. Mahima, B and D are close. Yeah, but which is the correct one? Close and correct. Close doesn't give you marks. Correct gives you marks. Yeah, which one? Okay, I see D there. Mahima and Vicky, but Vicky is pretty sure it's D. Kushal B. All right, let's start. Let's start with D. The non-cooperation of the private sector. Do you think? Yes, this is a point. But did it push the developing countries into a debt crisis? It's made the crisis worse. It's not helping resolve the crisis. What pushed the countries into a crisis in the first place? Not the private sector refusing to cancel the loan. The private sector gave the loans in the first place. Taking loans from the private sector, from government institutions, World Bank, every place they've taken, wherever they could, they've taken money. So D is not the key argument. This is one of the factors. Private sector is saying we will not allow you to cancel the debts. They're not agreeing to it. To some of the countries, Chad and some of the African countries, they said no. But that has not pushed them into a crisis. That is not helping them come out of the crisis. Can't be D. Did the author say that it is impossible? Now remember, always watch out. These words should flag it off that this is may not be the right answer. Did he say it's impossible? He says the lack of it makes it difficult to restructure debt, but not impossible. Right? So has it pushed? The pandemic is what made the situation bad. The debt had already occurred before the pandemic. They had already borrowed the money before the pandemic. Left, right and center, they borrowed the money because the economies were doing well. The demand for their products was there. So they thought, oh, we can repay it. That was the start. What pushed them into a crisis was pandemic and consumer price crash. The pandemic was one of the reasons which made their economies take a crash. Therefore, this is partially correct, but this is not the author's main point. The author's main point is in the first and the last paragraphs. If you remember, first paragraph, the developing nations are facing a debt crisis. Then in the full first paragraph, he talks of the debt crisis. Last paragraph, until something is done, we should do something about it, otherwise it's too late. So the author is concerned about this deepening debt crisis. That is the central key. The reasons for the crisis, what should be done, all are secondary points. Key is this crisis is there, it's worsening, something should be done about it. That's the main point. Right? Agree? All right. Key argument, you don't have to go back. Just remember the wrong answers, the wrong options in key argument question or main theme question would be a fact which is mentioned in the passage. That would contribute to the key argument but will not be the key. Just because it's a fact mentioned in the passage doesn't make it the correct answer. It has to tell you the story of the passage. It has to tell you what is the author finally trying to tell us. Is he saying is the passage all about the pandemic? No, pandemic made the crisis worse. Private people not agreeing to debt cancellation made the crisis worse. But the key is the crisis has happened and it's getting worse. Something should be done about it. Agreed? All right. Next question. The author has expressed a view. He says there is not a lot that the G20, the World Bank and the IMF can do about it. In which context did he say it? And then you need to see, okay, what does it mean? Right? In what context did he say it? If you remember, this sentence is very easy. Okay, the private sector. He said it in the context of the private sector not agreeing, refusing to cancel debts for the African countries. And that thing, that the private sector's refusal, there's not much that these three big bodies can do anything about it. They can't do anything. They can't do much about it. Not a lot that they can do about it. Very literal, easy question. Now look at the options quickly and tell me which is the right answer. Please don't get it wrong. I'll be very upset if you get it wrong. Read each of the options carefully and tell me which is the right answer. The options are just playing with words because it's such an easy question. Question 9. Key in your answers. As soon as you have it, key in your answers. I can see a few answers. Okay. Most of the answers that I see are saying B. So all of you agree it is B. Can do nothing but compel means can compel. Therefore, this is wrong. Cannot compel is the right answer. Excellent, easy. Okay, but if you weren't careful, that's one question that you make a mistake in. All right, next question. Why, according to the passage, did developing countries consider it safe to borrow money in the years before the pandemic? So the whole cause of the debt crisis was the debt. Why did the countries borrow? Why did they consider it safe to borrow? We went through this point, so let's see if you can get the answer. Question 10. Why did the developing countries consider it safe? They considered it safe. That's why they borrowed from every source they could. Why did they do that? Because they thought they could borrow and repay money with relative ease. They could approach the debt restructuring authorities in case they faced any problems. Good idea. They had the support of the World Bank, the IMF, and the G20. Or is it because they had confidence in a growing economy and strong demand for their products? Easy, easy, easy question, right? D is the answer. I'm so happy you got it right. Fantastic. These questions are sitters, and you kick yourself if you get it wrong, because if you don't read the passage properly, if you don't read the options properly, you get it wrong. Okay, excellent. All right. Okay, yes, I am taking a live session after a long time, and I am delighted to be doing it, actually. All right, I missed it. I missed it a lot, but I was busy doing something useful. I was busy making questions for you. I was busy trying to put myself into the head of a cat question setter. All right, the next passage is based on science. Easy one. The questions are a little here and there. All right, again the same situation. This is slightly longer than the other passages. Each of the slides I'll give you 45 seconds. Key is to read it quickly but thoroughly once, so that in case of a doubt only you go back to the passage and find out what to do. Otherwise, you don't have to. All right, okay, let's start. Your 45 seconds starts now. Next slide. Oh, I forgot the timer. Okay, all right. I'll show it to you only for 20 seconds now because I think I missed it. Next slide. Here I'll put the timer on. That was a short slide for 45 seconds, but I hope you read it carefully. Next slide, timer is on. Okay, how was the passage? Easy, moderate, difficult. How did it read? When you read the passage, how did you feel? This is a doable passage, काफी आसान है, can do it, not that easy. What did you feel? Okay, it's a science-based passage, shorter, 505 words, but the terms there made it feel longer, and I gave you 30-35 seconds more to read the passage. Okay, all right, let's now go and see if your summary and mine tally. When you read the passage, what did you summarize? Not much to summarize. First paragraph was all about the problems. You use hydrofluorocarbons, you use carbon dioxide, methane for heating and cooling buildings, refrigerators and air conditioners. But these have negative consequences. Global warming, greenhouse gases, if they leak, they have the problem. Second paragraph, one way to overcome this problem is to use the thermoelectric heat transfer. All right, and that is the key to the question. People are doing it. Till now they haven't used it to heat and cool buildings, but they are using it in other areas. That's what the passage says. Clear, easy, seems easy. Let's look at how you look at the questions now. One way of getting around all this might be to exploit what is known as thermoelectric effect. This is given in the second paragraph. So, the question is asking, what does all this refer to? What does all this refer to? The negative consequences. Air conditioners, refrigerators, hydrofluorocarbons which cause greenhouse warming. Second, what did he say? Carbon dioxide, methane, which if they leak can cause problems. So what does all this refer to? The first paragraph, getting about the problems, getting around the problems, getting over the problems, overcoming the problems mentioned in para 1. What is that? Answer the questions. Yeah, the passage was of moderate level difficulty, agreed. Let's see how you do on the questions. I will try not to go back to the passage, though in the exam you need to go back to the passage. Okay, just to make sure that what you read is the same. For this you don't have to if you remember the structure of the passage. Okay, structure, first paragraph problems, second paragraph thermoelectric effect, third developing some chip, and fourth how is it being used now, right? Which option? Which option is the correct answer for question 11? Vicky says D. What about the others? Okay, I've seen only D as answers. Indeed, you are right. It is D. It is not just hydrofluorocarbons. Now, I deliberately used this answer option because he's not just talked about hydrofluorocarbons. He's also talked about using natural gas for heating and for heating buildings, carbon dioxide and methane. But then they won't give you the specifics. Every word that is used in the passage will not be used. A general, which is, you know, not exactly the answer 100%, but 90% there by which you can extend your logic. Yeah, he is talking of hydrofluorocarbons also, in addition to carbon dioxide and methane. Therefore, D is the right answer. Excellent. Very good. Question 12. The results are still a long way from something that could heat or cool a building. In what context did he talk about this? Somewhere around paragraph 5 and 6. He talked about two companies, Phononic and Fabrinet. They're working together to make, what did he use the term? Thermoelectric chips, right? These two companies, Thailand-based company and the word was Phononic, they're making this thermoelectric chip. The results of their collaboration are still a long way from something that could heat or cool a building. So what does it mean? Look at the answer options and tell me what it means. One student says the way you are reading the answer is giving me a clue to the right answer. So I'm not reading the answer options. Try to understand the answer options by reading it yourselves. Question 12. Raj, mention the question number. It's easier for me to identify if you've got it right or wrong. Ijnara got it right. Good. Gurvit. All right. 12. Question 12. Okay. Lots of answers I'm seeing. In their current form, thermoelectric chips are unlikely to heat or cool a building. Simple. So that is just the literal translation of this. So the answer is A. Okay? Okay. If you've understood the main point of the argument of the passage, you will understand this question and mark it easily. But it will take you a little longer because this is an except question. What's it asking? The author discusses all of the following arguments in the passage except that. So what are the arguments or points he has stated in the passage? Which one point has he not stated, or which one point goes against what he has stated? So either you look for an option which is out of scope of the passage or goes against the theme of the passage. Okay? Let me put the timer. Let's see how you do. Hydrofluorocarbons contribute to the greenhouse warming effect. The development of a chip that carries heat from place to place as electric current. Thermoelectric chips have replaced hydrofluorocarbons in radar systems of autonomous vehicles. thermoelectric chips are not as prevalent as some semiconductor-based electronic systems. Which one argument or statement has not been mentioned in the passage or has not been mentioned in the form it is given in the answer option? Okay, why is it C? The author has mentioned radar systems of autonomous vehicles. He has, but he hasn't said that these chips have replaced these things. He just says that these chips are being used in the radar systems to guide autonomous vehicles, but he has not said they have replaced. So this is a misrepresentation of the facts that has been given in the passage. Therefore, C is the answer. Excellent. All right. Now, in the time remaining, I'm going to just show you a passage. I'm not going to discuss it, show you the summary and quickly ask you to answer all the questions one by one and tell you if it's right or wrong. Okay? It's sheer timing, sheer practice. No explanations. It is self-explanatory. You will understand why it's right or wrong. All right. After that, I will take your questions. One especially, which said mock percentiles are all over the place. I'll tell you why. So this is a passage based on technology. 45 seconds per slide. Then again 45 seconds per the question slide. We will not go back to the passage. If you make mistakes, it's fine. This is the situation you are in CAT. The last 10 minutes and you have a passage to do. Let's see how you do it. Technology, 513 words. Question: how was the passage? Is it the easiest of the set that you read so far? This is the fourth of our set of passages. Was it the easiest? How would you rate it? On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate this passage in terms of degree of difficulty? Because all of you are into all this, no? Artificial intelligence and facial recognition. So did you find it easier because it's a subject that probably you like and you are used to? Right? Many students would see a passage like this and find it quite easy. All right? Yes, many would do that. So summary also obviously is not too much. Okay, it's about how scientists are working on developing AI that thinks like human beings. And how are they doing it? They are looking at deep neural network process information and they are visualizing how they process information and whether the way they process information is similar to the way human beings process information. That's the important part, right? Yeah, it is not the easiest, but it is quite easy because it's a subject that you like, many of you are familiar with. But the questions would require you to keep going back to the passage. Let's say you don't have time for that. Okay, you can do it. You can watch this video later and look at it. I'm not going to give you the time to go back to the passage. You have the last 5 minutes. How are you going to answer this passage? And let's see if you answer without going back to the passage, what happens to your accuracy. What can you infer about AI based on what has been given in the passage? So only one option is correct. All options look similar, look like they can be inferred. So obviously look for words that change the meaning in the option from what has been given in the passage. All right. What is the answer to this question? Is it A? Can you infer that machine thinking replicates human thinking processes? Is it B? AI technology is largely error-free and dependable? Is it C? AI models are built on a deep understanding of machine thinking and its similarity with human thinking processes? Or is it D? For facial recognition studies to work, the AI machines and human beings should have identical information about face models. B and C are the most common answers. Y is, okay, if you had an option, okay, they are the closest ones. One of them, 50-50 option, okay? Between B and C, one of them is correct. Which one do you think it is? Did he say this? Twice he has said, makes a lot of errors. Second, he says it's unpredictable. Therefore, it cannot be B. Right? Answer is, no, I got my ABCs wrong. It is not A. Machine thinking, nothing is known about machine thinking, so it cannot be A. It is not error free, it is error prone. We do not have an understanding of machine thinking. We are still trying to find out. But it says that they should have the same information. If they have the same, the whole last paragraph which talked about AI models, facial recognition and human facial recognition, to find out the processes, to find out whether this and this, the processes are the same, they have to have the same information given to them. That is the key. Therefore, the answer is D. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. All right. Next one. Quickly. According to the passage, the drawback of deep neural network technology as a model for human decision-making behavior is that, again, I'm not going back to the passage, but let's see if you get it right. Okay, let me get your answers for 15. Please mark the question number. Okay, it thinks like humans, cannot be relied upon. Does it think like human? They don't know whether it thinks like humans. It does not always achieve the same level of human performance. Is that its drawback? While it is the best, its drawback, as it is mentioned in the passage, it is inconsistent and error prone. Here it uses the word error free. Therefore, the answer is D. Inconsistent and error prone. It is inconsistent and error prone when? In many things it matches human performance levels, even betters. But in visually cognitive tasks, in visually demanding tasks which require discriminating, it makes a problem, which is why they have given the facial recognition as an example. All right, okay. When discussing AI, the author uses the word illusion to indicate all of the following except. Now, where does he use the word illusion? Let me just read the lines for you. He says that if AI doesn't do something, we could have the illusion that the system works just as humans do, but later find out that it doesn't. Okay, if AI doesn't have the same information, there are times when we think that it is working. We have the illusion that it is working like a human system, but it actually doesn't. So how has the word illusion been used, and which word is not indicative of the meaning as it is used in the passage? False impression, incorrect perception, misconception, delusion. The word illusion, the contextual meaning of illusion would apply to all the options except which one? False impression, incorrect perception, misconception, delusion. Do you need that long? Come on, give me your answers quickly. Impression means perception only. So don't go with impression as a visual impression, okay? False impression means having the wrong idea, which is the same thing as incorrect perception, which is the same thing as misconception. Now, delusion also means wrong notion, but the difference with delusion is that I continue to have the wrong notion despite being shown evidence to the contrary. A, B, and C, I can unknowingly have a false impression, have a misconception about you. Once you show me evidence about it, I can correct my illusion. Oh, AI is not working like a human mind? Okay, I'll accept it. But delusion is when you show me the truth also, I'm under a false impression. I think I'm the greatest teacher on earth. That is my delusion. If you correct me and say, hey, you're not, okay? And you give me evidence of 100 other teachers who are way better than me and I still say no, then I am under the delusion that I am the best teacher. Good example, huh? I don't let myself become very proud, presumptuous. All right, next one. Easy question. Just have to read the answer options right. Let me time you. Read it on your own, read the answer options on your own and give me the answer. Okay? So which is the right answer? Is it A, B, C or D? Question 17. Is it in comparing AI and human models to get an accurate picture, which one would not give you an accurate picture of whether AI works in the same way? Oh, it should be except. I'm sorry. I've corrected the question on this. I was not supposed to do this, but I got the question wrong. Okay, you still answer it, right? I'm allowed one mistake per question, per passage or per session. That would be better. All right. For identifying accurately, what do you need? Would this help? If it's an except question, it works. 3 conditions won't work, 1 will. If you are given a series of 3D faces to humans, can you understand if humans and AI work well? No. If you give 3D models to AI, can you find out if AI works in the same way as humans? No. Both sets have to be there. So this can't work. If you compare the ratings, yes, they may work, but that Professor Philip has said the importance of giving the same information. Therefore, none of these would give an accurate picture except D. If the question is changed, the question was incorrect, my apologies for that. Okay, question 18. Is there a question 18? No. All right. What did we learn today? And I hope you're going back from this session feeling happy. And the passages were not very easy. The questions were also not very easy. What made it? No, the question was incorrect, Vicky. It was not confusing. I agree. All right, the last question, if we change it, now you understand that They will all give incorrect results except D. The correct result will only happen when both sets, AI models and human models, get the same information. Then you can understand the process by which, with the information that it has, the process by which AI makes the facial recognition and the process by which human beings make it. Right? All right. So what did we learn today? If you get passages on science and technology, economics, business, attempt it. Because the passages read easily despite technical jargon being there. The second point is, there are lots of facts and figures that these passages have. When you read, you need not process the facts and figures, but if there is a question on it, you need to go back to the passage and cross-check. I would encourage you to read from these genres. Read Science Tech Daily, Science Daily, Economist, The Guardian. Read articles which are based on these subjects so that your understanding and your ease, the ease with which you read the passages, improves. So what did we learn today? Reading right. And what is reading right? Read everything. Don't skip anything. Process only the main point. By the time you finish reading the passage, you should have a summary in your head which will help you answer most questions without even going back to the passage. But if there is a question on a specific idea, if there is a question, all of the following can be inferred except, you say, okay, I know I can infer A, B, but C and D I'm not sure. C I'm not sure because of this word. D I'm not sure because of this word. Like one of you said, I'm confused between C and D. Then go back to the passage, read that line and figure out, oh, is it C I need or is it D that I need? All right. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the session. I hope you found it useful. Stay locked at 7 p.m. to our BYJU'S exam prep, to our YouTube channel. Share this link with your friends. Share the video with your friends. Make sure that maximum number of people attend BYJU'S exam prep sessions. We have a lot of sessions being taken by the best in the industry. You have Pradeep Sen Gupta, you have Saral Nashia, you have Vikas Dahiya. All the best coming together. We are bringing this course for you. If you haven't attended Pradeep's Parajumble session, you should attend it. I showed you the dates. I have attended his session and I've also taught Parajumbles for so many years, and I'm not saying this just to praise my colleague, but when I attended it, I said, oh yeah, this is the best way to tell a student how to arrange these sentences in the right order quickly. That's very important for Parajumbles. Just if I give you 5 minutes to solve a Parajumble, you can happily do it. Anyone can do it. But that's not the point. There's always the pressure of time. Can you solve a Parajumble in 45 seconds accurately? That is what Pradeep is going to teach in the Parajumble session coming up soon. Meanwhile, keep looking out for the 7 p.m. sessions. All right. Recognizing the main point requires greater comprehension, true, Vaibhav, but that's what we said. The main point is examples, illustrations, additional information, adjectives. These do not additional adjectives so much as adjective phrases and adjective clauses. They are not important. So what you do is, after you read the passage, you have a paragraph, you simplify the main point in your own words. The first paragraph is about the problems caused by the pandemic. Second paragraph talks about how countries are coping with the pandemic. Third paragraph says how vaccination has finally helped countries to limp back to normal. Okay, you got the main point. Key is understand the main point. Same way, understand the questions, understand the answer options. All right, and you will not have a problem in answering questions. If your mock percentiles are fluctuating, that is because you are not reading right. The mock percentiles fluctuate depending on your reading comprehension scores, right? Now, reading comprehension passages are wide and varied. If there are more of economics passages, then you're very happy because they're easy. Or if there's one on literature or philosophy, you feel it is tougher, you can't do it. Try this, identifying the main point, recapping the main point, keeping it in your head, answer options. Next session, we will be talking about how to eliminate options. And then we'll again make sure that you read right, so that your reading comprehension, which is more than 70% of the paper of the VARC section, if you can conquer that, then your mock percentiles will not fluctuate. Your reading focus fluctuates, which is why your mock percentiles are fluctuating. So Khushi, next time you take a mock, make sure you read correctly, practice, and follow these 3 rules. Read, simplify the passage, read the question, answer options. We'll also learn ways to eliminate options. All right. So the next session that I will be taking is about eliminating options. All right. The next verbal section for you would be, I think, parajumbles made easy. And of course, you'll have your quant and LRDI sessions as well. All right, it has been a pleasure taking this session for you, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I hope you enjoyed it and found it as useful as I wanted it to be. All right, stay tuned to BYJU'S exam prep, and above all, stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.